What's been going on in tournament bass fishing the last couple of years, folks? I mean, it's been like drama, drama, drama. A lot of good stuff, but a lot of drama. I want to go on a short little rant here. You know, I really love tournament bass fishing. I really like to watch it live. But the last few years, it's been rule changes. A lot of that's got to do with forward-facing sonar. It's been No Information Act violations. I mean, I think cheating is a little bit of a strong word, but definitely violations that pertain to the no information clause. There's been field cuts. There's just been a lot of movement in bass fishing. You know, the MPFL, they decided to get rid of forward-facing sonar altogether. Bassmasters in 2026, they've got kind of a split season. They got some of their tournaments where you're not allowed to use forward-facing sonar. Some of them you are. And then Major League Fishing, you know, the BPT, I believe it was last year, they fish 3 periods per tournament. They have 2 of those periods without forward-facing sonar. One of those periods, they allow forward-facing sonar. In 2026, in the BFLs and the Toyota Series, they've changed it from unlimited forward-facing sonar to just 3 hours of forward-facing sonar per tournament. There's just a lot going on. I mean, there's so much drama going on in bass fishing right now. There's actually people out there that have YouTube channels that just basically the whole source of their content is covering the different disqualifications and cheating and just the drama in general in bass fishing. And they do well. They get a lot of views, and it's got a lot of, you know, they get a lot of followers just based off that stuff. So I got to the point where, I mean, I've always been excited. We go through the winter. There's no live tournament footage. Kind of jonesing for that. And then the first tournament started appearing like in January or February. And I'm super excited. I'm really glued to it. It's fresh. It's, you know, you got cabin fever and boom, here we are. And it's nice. And, you know, I watch a couple of the tournaments. I get really into it. And then here comes all that drama again. And lo and behold, it started to rear its ugly head. And I'd had enough, man. I got to the point where I'm just like, I'm done watching tournament bass fishing. It was just too much. There's so much chirping. It's overwhelming. I mean, I would check in on time to time just to see how things were going. I wasn't completely, you know, away from it. It's in the blood. I got to at least look every once in a while, but I wasn't really following it that close. And I kind of abandoned it. But then in a moment of reflection, I was like, what got me into tournament fishing in the first place? And I was like, aha, it's the team stuff. I fished a lot of team tournaments over the years. Super fun format. Some of the best memories I've had have been in the boat with my buddy Jerry, my buddy Mike, Ron, several people. And it's just one of those deals where the camaraderie is unquestionable. You pick a division, you pick a circuit, pick a buddy, you go out there, you have fun. No drama, great experience, the camaraderie, the brotherhood, all that. It's a no-brainer. I mean, you laugh, you cry, you fart, you tell jokes. It's just dudes out in a boat having a good time. And not too long after that, one of the new MLF team tournaments popped up. I'd seen a couple last year, and I was real kind of fired up about them, but the new season started about that time. So I'm like, hey, I can watch this. This is completely different. I don't get that same kind of feeling. It's just 2 guys out in the boat, and they're having a good time. You get to listen to them talk. You get to listen to them break down. And I started kind of getting into that. You know, there's 4 tournaments during the season. They start in August, and we're right in the middle of the very last one right now. It's the Bass Pro Shops Summit Cup. And I like a lot about the format. It reminds me of the first time I watched Major League Fishing years ago, before they had the BPT. They had the kind of made for TV stuff where they would bring the anglers basically blindfolded, kind of cartel style, throw them in a truck, and they wouldn't know where they're fishing at until the morning. They'd get like a 15-30 minute ride around period, and then they would start fishing. It was just no practice, no information. You just get out there and get after it. And that's how the team tournament is. It's the same kind of scenario. The anglers don't know where they're going until the morning of the tournament. They have the schedule out, so they know they're going to be fishing within 60 miles of whatever city is on the schedule, but they don't know the exact lake. And I like that format for a couple reasons. One, it adds more drama. We're trying to get away from drama, but it's a different kind of drama. It's a positive drama in that it's like they don't know. They show up, boom. So you get to really see that raw, organic fishing, all the experience. that they've had as professional fishermen. It all comes out. How do they break down the lakes? How do they work together? And then it also cuts down on the cheating, so to speak. These guys don't know what lakes are going on, so they're not buying waypoints. They're not trying to solicit information because they really don't know. There can be an advantage of who your partner is. Maybe, you know, he's from that area and he does have a little bit of knowledge, possibly fish some of the lakes in that area. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward, which I really like that concept. One of the things I didn't understand about the MLF team series was how the teams are chosen. And I did a little research, and the draft captains, the top 24 anglers from the Bass Pro Tour in the first half of the season, become captains in the first 2 events. And then they're able to choose who they want to fish with on down the line. So the top 24 are the captains, and everybody behind there is eligible to fish. A captain can also draw another captain. That captain has the option to fish with the captain, or say no, deny, and fish with somebody else. The second draft is held for the remaining events, the Patriot Cup and the Summit Cup, which we're in the middle of the Summit Cup right now, with 24 anglers from the second half of the season serving as captain. Same kind of rules apply. You get some interesting draws. There's guys that are captains that just draw somebody that they've always wanted to fish with. Maybe it's one of their idols, maybe it's one of their heroes, maybe it's somebody they just talked to around the parking lot before the tournaments and they've always wanted to fish with them. But there's also some strategy that can come into play. You see the schedule, maybe you're going to draw somebody that is somewhat local to that area. There's a little bit of advantage of that. Maybe it's a power fisherman that wants somebody that's a finesse fisherman, or some of the younger guys that are really good with forward-facing sonar. You have an opportunity to learn how to use that. After the teams are chosen, it's time to get down to business. The MLF team series is set up in a bracket formation. There's 3 elimination rounds. Each elimination round has 4 teams. The top 2 teams qualify and advance to the knockout round. The bottom 2 teams on each day, they go home. Tough luck, just the way it is. There are 2 knockout rounds. At the end of the 2 knockout rounds, the top 2 teams qualify for the championship. So you got 6 teams in the knockout rounds divided into 2 days. You get 4 folks or 4 teams into the championship round. At the end of each tournament, the weights are zeroed, and this is a catch, weigh, and release format. Question for you guys, leave in the comment section. What do you think about this? The catch, weigh, and release versus the 5 fish. I've been hung up on the 5 fish, but I think a lot of that is traditional. The more I watch the catch, weigh, and release, there's definitely a conservation element to it, and I'm kind of leaning that way. You catch the fish, you weigh them, you release them right there. They don't drive around and ride around in the live well all day. There is something nice about being at a weigh-in, watching the guys bag up the fish, walk across the stage, drop them on the scale, and see how much those 5 fish weigh. But there's a delayed mortality thing that happens. I mean, the fish may swim away, but statistics are high. There's a large percentage of those fish that die just a couple of days later. I mean, most of us have been on a lake. We show up in the morning, it's the day after a Saturday tournament. We get to our lake on Sunday, and there's a couple really nice quality bass floating around the boat ramp. I've talked to several just recreational fishermen that have showed up to the boat ramp after a tournament, and they're upset about these big bass floating around the boat ramp. So it kind of gives the tournament guys a bad rep, a bad rap, and that's unfortunate. But with catch, weigh, and release, you don't have to worry about that. They swim off, they stay right where they're at, and you're not loading and stocking up the marinas. That's another thing. You're moving fish around. You catch them 30 miles away, you bring them all to, PB2, Lake of the Ozarks. That place is just loaded with fish because they catch them all over the lake, bring them there, and then dump them in the marina. So you're moving fish all around. The catch, weigh, and release, they're staying right where you caught them. But what's your thoughts on that, man? It's just something I've been kind of battling with, and I don't know. Sometimes it's just got to be about the fish. Another cool thing about the team series that I like is right now, most of your other fishing is done. All your championships and your regular season derbies are over, and this extends the fishing live coverage into the fall. The guys show up at the lake in the morning. They get 30 minutes to get their stuff together, and then they get a 15-minute drive around period, and then they get after it. They just start fishing. They look, find an area where they want to get started, and they just start dissecting it. They have to use their brain power to figure it out, man. It goes by quick. There are 3 2-hour periods. In between the first and the second period, there's a 15-minute break. In between the second and the third period, there's a 15-minute break. One of the downsides of the catch, weigh, and release format is there can be some blowouts at times. There's times where a team will just dial in a pattern, or they'll find a school of fish and they'll start running that score tracker up. At the end of the second period, they may be 30, 40 pounds ahead, and you already know who's going to win. But it does create drama on that cut line, because there are times when that second and third place team are really, really neck and neck. They're basically one scoreable fish away. And as time goes on, it tightens up and they kind of battle back and forth. That's a lot of fun. I really enjoy those type of tournaments. One of the best tournaments as far as that being super close right at the end. This is a BPT tournament, but it was when Jake Lawrence and Jacob Willer were fishing in Nickajack and Chickamauga. And, well, I'll just play the clip real quick.
At Lake Chickamauga, he said this week, why not make it all three? Jake Lawrence could still catch one. With 30 seconds left, it would have to be 2 pounds. Lawrence is hooked up. Has to have it over the gunnel of the boat before time expires. It also must be 2 pounds. Lawrence gets it in. He'll get it on. Jake Lawrence.
Are you kidding me?
At the wire.
It really just happened.
To have this one over the gunnel of the boat. Time has expired. He won't get it in. It might have been the winner. This will be the winner. Lawrence with the local seals it.
Are you kidding me?
Just in the nick of time.
Oh, give me some of that blood. I don't even care about the camera. Oh, what a beautiful fish. Oh, thank you, Lord.
So you do get those kind of tournaments sometimes, and sometimes you get blowouts. Forward-facing sonar is allowed throughout the whole period, but it's not as much of an issue because of the lack of practice time. In a traditional tournament, you got 2 or 3 days of practice. Guys will idle around. They'll find schools. They'll find areas that have a lot of bait fish. They have the elements that are conducive to somebody using forward-facing sonar and picking off those individual fish. But in this style of tournament, they got a 15-minute ride around period. Not saying that forward-facing sonar doesn't play, because it does. It just depends on the lake. But you have a lot more of that traditional kind of power fishing, that winding and grinding, that flipping and dragging and that kind of stuff, versus the forward-facing sonar. All 3 days of the elimination rounds were held on Caddo Lake. I believe it's in western Louisiana, and man, it is a power fisherman's paradise. There's cypress trees, there's big thick mats, there's stumps, there's docks, there's a little bit of everything. So top 6 teams have moved on to the knockout rounds, and we're right in the middle of the knockout rounds as we speak. Elimination round number 1 was held on Caddo Lake, and folks, it was like straight up power fishing. I mean, cypress trees, some real thick, nasty mats, stumps, wood, just power fishing 101. Nick LeBrun and Todd Faircoff won the thing. Cole Floyd and Nick Hatfield finished second, and Shutfield and Becker and Burge and Poche didn't make the cut, so they're going home. But man, it was packed with fish catching action. Frogs, a lot of heavy line, big rods, braid, that kind of stuff, some punching. There's a little bit of chatterbait action, but it was a straight up just power fishing, just kind of old school fishing. Forward-facing sonar really didn't play a role. And this is what you want to see in a tournament. It was pretty tight. The weights are really low, but some really good, healthy, chunky fish. Man, I love that kind of tournament. Definitely one of the highlights of the Caddo Lake tournament was that frog rod break.
Half of it down through there. We didn't fish half of it down through there. That's a good one, dude. That's a big one. Oh, gosh. Get him in here. Dude. Oh my gosh, look at that. Dude, look how it ate that frog. Big, dude. Barely had him hooked. I didn't think he was that big. 5 pounds, 13 ounces. Sick.
What a football, dude. If y'all can see that, this fish is only healthy. Like, he's not very long.
He's probably 17, 18 inches long.
Elimination round 2 was completely different than round 1. It was kind of a forward-facing sonar deal. Drew Gill and Marshall Robinson pretty much dominated up until the third period, and Brent Ayler and Justin Lucas made a comeback. But Drew and Marshall found this little area. It was just a big flat area, and it was holding a ton of fish. And they were out there scoping. Drew was throwing his worm, and you know what they say about a guy that knows how to shake his worm right? They catch a lot of bass, and that's exactly what Drew did. It was just like, I can't remember how many he caught, but it was unbelievable. They ended up weighing in 62 pounds, and they won the tournament. Ayler and Lucas weighed in 59 pounds, so it got pretty close there. Ayler was just whacking them on a jerkbait. Similar deal, they stayed out off the grass, and they found some suspended fish, and they were looking at them, and it was just the top two teams were using forward-facing sonar a lot. Totally different from the day before. The guys that kind of struggled, Wesley Strader and Brent Chapman, and then Britt Myers and Terry Scroggins. You know, Scroggins and Myers were really nosed up in some super thick mats, and they were punching, you know, heavyweight, braid, big rod, and they were getting bites, but they just couldn't keep up with the other guys. And same thing with Strader and Chapman. They had a pretty good chatterbait bite going. It was kind of funny. Strader actually broke a rod swinging a fish in with the chatterbait, and then the very next fish catch he broke another rod. So he got rid of, he was down to, like, I think he had a buzzbait rod that he could throw a chatterbait on. You know, the guys have a limited amount of stuff that they can bring, but it was a really good tournament. It was exciting. Elimination round day 3 on Caddo Lake was a lot like day 1. Weights were really, really tight. Guys were struggling to catch fish, and bites were few and far between. Bobby Lane and Jacob Wall started pulling away in that second period, and they had the lead for a long time. Sprague and Robanus, you know, they were flipping and pitching and power fishing. Something I learned watching Robanus was how long and how comfortable he is with keeping a frog in his hand the whole day, whether he's getting bites. He did catch a few on that frog, but Sprague pulled most of the weight in the boat. Adrian Avina and Mark Daniels Jr., man, they were struggling. They were the only guys that were really focused and committed to the forward-facing sonar deal, and they really never found it until the very end of the tournament. They actually started catching a lot of fish. They were running it up, but they were so far behind that they could never catch up. Ron Nilsson and Keith Carson, they slowly stayed within range of Bobby Lane and Jacob Wall, and in that last period at the very end, they found this little area that had these swim jig fish, and they started crushing them on a swim jig. I mean, it was some phenomenal fishing. So they ended up winning the tournament with 36 pounds, 10 ounces. Bobby Lane and Jacob Wall finished second with 36 pounds. So they were one fish away. That little bit cut line drama thing was happening there. They just needed a scoreable bass to win the tournament. Sprague, Robanus are going home. They had 26-15, and Avina and Daniels Jr. had 24-3. It was a really good day. Mostly power fishing, a lot of that punching, a lot of frogging. There was some chatterbait stuff. Bobby Lane and Jacob Wall, I mean, Bobby was killing them on a little Fritz-side crankbait. Jacob Wall caught a few on a buzzbait. They found one little magic area, this little bitty stretch inside of this creek, and they kept going back to it. Each time they went back to it, they would catch a fish. But it just shows you in fall fishing, the fish are really spread out, but if you can find them, you can catch a lot of fish, and that's what fall fishing is all about. Sorry about the rant in the beginning, folks. I just had to get it out. This has been invigorating. This is refreshing, the team series. I mean, it's kind of got me back into watching all this live stuff. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description box, or just go to mlf.com. You can click on it. There's a couple more days of it. We're really close to the championship. Things are going to get really good. You know, if you're tired of all the drama in bass fishing, I think you'll find the team series a little bit more refreshing. Guys breaking it down, camaraderie, all the stuff that you really want fishing to be about. That's all I got for you. Subscribe, thumbs up. Till next time.